It definitely starts from the leadership, right? And making sure that everybody's clear on where you're headed and getting everybody's buy-in. But it also takes to listening to everybody on the team as well. I think hearing what their ideas, hearing what their concerns are, and then kind of all agreeing this is where we're headed.
I think perseverance, resilience, always wanting to learn. Those are the key factors that I think of when you're talking about character and winning. Is if you're not challenging yourself all the time to get better and to improve, you're not going to keep winning because everybody else is working just as hard as you are to get better.
Welcome to this week's As Unexpected podcast, when we talk to C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists about how they lead into the future when the future generally goes as unexpected. I'm Scott Marshall, your host, and my own professional experience has made me a believer that it's not how you show up when all goes as planned, but it is how you show up when things go as unplanned. Given all of their experiences, each of our guests has become very attuned to the fact that the future is not to be predicted. My hope is that this podcast can help all of you become better leaders by building the core leadership capabilities for leading in an uncertain world. Welcome, everybody, to As Unexpected podcast. I'm Scott Marshall, and today we have a really cool episode because we have two guests rather than one. Two guests that know each other very well. In fact, not too long ago, I was able to have lunch with these two individuals who work together today. They're only a few offices apart right now. And I'm so excited to have you, Kristen and Tina. Thanks for joining today.
Great. Thanks, Scott. Thanks so much for having us. We're glad to be here. My name is Kristen Croxton. I work for a company called Arcus Harbor Real Estate Capital. It's a boutique mortgage banking company that we started last June. So we're just about hitting the 1-year mark at this point. We're focusing on financing commercial real estate debt throughout the U.S. Prior to that, we were, and I say we because Tina was with me, but at Capital One, Deutsche Bank. So we have a lot of experience in various large banking institutions. We were also with a small privately held company. So we have that. Prior to the work experience, I went to James Madison and I did semester at sea in my spring of my junior year, a long time ago.
Awesome, Kristen. Thank you. And Tina, what about you? There's a similar stream here, but you've got your own story as well.
Very, very similar. Chris and I came up similar companies. I started back in 2002 at a small company called Berkshire Mortgage Finance and met Kristen a couple of years later when she moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. And then from there, we had kind of parallel journeys of, staying at that company through a large acquisition by Deutsche Bank and then moving to a smaller boutique company. She went first, then I came a year and a half later. And we both, the two of us and two of our additional business partners, founded this company that we work for now, Arcus Harbor Real Estate Capital, in June 2024. And it's been quite a ride. And I went on semester at sea fall of 1999, the other way around the world from what Kristen did.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you've both have had long careers in banking and finance. You understand this world. You've seen it from the big company lens, from the small boutique company lens. And here you are now co-founding your own operation, small boutique in some ways, but you're operating across the country from what I can tell. Yep. And I'm sure through this journey, the two of you have a lot of stories to tell. A lot of things probably have gone exactly as you thought, but maybe there's been times when it's been a little bit unexpected. So because Kristen, you're at the top of my screen here, I'm going to start with you and then we'll pass to Tina. But can you start off telling a story, and maybe it's a shared story, but maybe it's also one of your own, where there's something to learn from dealing with the unexpected. There's something that you had to show up for yourself and others around you when things didn't go as you planned.
That's a great question. I think just in starting our own company, we have had numerous unexpected things pop up, some of which we're still working through. But I think for us, the goal is to just stick to what we know and try and focus on how we get through the day, knowing all the years of experience that we've had. But as far as the unexpected parts of it are in the, starting your own company is dealing with the licensing requirements and the accounting, the finance, things like that. So it just, to get through it is kind of reaching out to other experts in the stuff that we don't know as well, I think. So we've been finding a lot of other third-party people to work alongside us to help us get through some of these new steps for us.
I would say, Scott, I think the unexpected period with starting a new company. I think before this, we had always had job security at these larger companies or small entrepreneurial companies where you could carve your own way, but you always felt, you knew you were getting a paycheck, like, you knew where your benefits were coming from. This has been an unexpected, but really fun journey because, what is it? One of our partners loves to say, like, I bet on myself all day long. And it's that kind of mentality that I think we've all had to embrace with this new adventure. And I say adventure because it has been an adventure. Like, we're learning new things every day. I mean, Kristen definitely knows more about, insurance of all sorts for a company more than I do, but it's been fun. And having to learn how to interact with new people after you've worked with people for 10, 15 years, and then you go to a new partnership, you have to kind of pivot and figure out how to work with people in a new manner, I guess. So it's been fun and unexpected as a whole. I guess I never was one of those people in my life that I'm going to own my own company and be my own boss. I was quite okay taking a paycheck, for a long time. So it's been fun. I mean, the freedom is amazing though, in terms of personal independence.
Can we go back to that moment where the two of you, maybe over coffee or over phone or over Zoom, were like, yeah, are we going to start a new business like from scratch with some other people? Like, can you remember that moment?
I kind of remember it. I don't know if you do, Kristen.
Yeah, you go. I'll fill in some blanks.
I think I was driving in the car and we were both having one of those, like, are we really doing this moments? I think some of our partners think it's way easier than we do. And because we are both very detailed people, Kristen and I think that that's what part of our strengths, that we get along so well. And something that we bring to the team is like, we're super detail oriented and we think about the small things. Whereas, some of our other founding partners are more big picture. And so I think I was having one of those, oh crap moments of how are we going to do all of this?
What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So that was when I think we were having like a sidebar conversation, like pretty deep into some of this, some of these conversations. We're like, wow.
Yeah. Well, how many lists can I make? I like to make lists. And so it was like, well, there's a list for this and there's a list for this. Now there's a list of, I don't even know. It's over here. I don't know how to do. I don't know if we need to do. So yeah, that was definitely a big moment. I think then we probably went and got sushi and had some wine and kind of like talked ourselves through it and got on board. But it was a big step for sure.
So you clearly, you both have some kind of inherent, like, just courage, and you took the jump. So you had to take that courage. What I'm also interested in exploring is this degree that you were willing to not know what you didn't know, but you knew you had, like, how do you address that? How do you address that? There's this long list, and I'm not even sure what the right questions are, let alone the answers. How do you come and deal with this list of unformed questions?
Yeah, I would say there's a little bit of divide and conquer with the four of us, with the four partners. Some of the, like Tina said, we each have our own strengths. So we kind of divvied up the list of like, okay, this is something you could probably dig into better. So we're really fortunate. The three of them are born and raised in Orange County. I'm not, but I've been here for almost 25 years. We have a lot of great contacts. So we've been able to reach out to people that have helped us. Our attorney that we use for a lot of our deals has been able to connect us with other attorneys that we need for different parts of the business. Just so using, contacts that we have been super helpful for us.
Part of it is too, like with every challenge, you kind of got to break it down, the problem, and just go one thing at a time. Sometimes it seems overwhelming. And if you just kind of go back to like any part of our careers before, we didn't know anything. We had to figure it out. We had to ask a lot of questions. And even when you don't know the questions, you start having those conversations and then you get all the questions. And so, it's almost like the more you know, the less you know, but it's a place to start.
What does it take for professionals like yourself to be willing to admit to others you don't know? What is it? Imagine you're speaking to yourself 15 years ago and you want to coach that person and build their confidence so they know that not knowing and asking questions is exactly how you get ahead, exactly how you move through a career. How do you coach that person?
I think that you give them some grace, and the ability to ask those questions is, you never make anyone feel stupid. And if anything, you show the appreciation when someone's willing to share their knowledge, and then you do that for the next person that you ever work with. I think showing someone that asking the question, but showing the appreciation through how you listen is, I think there's nothing better that you can do. I mean, yeah, I came to this career not knowing anything about finance. I mean, I had to do a lot of legwork in the beginning, and I had great people around me that I could ask questions of, but then it was up to me to go and find some more of the answers and come back and explain how I knew it and show the appreciation so that like their time spent on me wasn't meaningless, right? It was actually meaningful. And I think that's all you can do and do that going forward for other people.
Thing I would advise is trying to find people in your workplace or people just in the industry that you can use as a mentor so that you've got someone that you can go to that you feel comfortable with asking those questions to, because it might not always be your boss that you feel comfortable asking the question. That maybe the question that you think is like a really dumb question and you should know the answer. So finding somebody that's outside of the space where you have a comfort space that can make you feel okay in a good, comfortable space to ask the question.
Yeah. One of the reasons I ask this is just to admit to you and everybody else that when I was in my 20s, I was not good at asking questions. Like I had to figure it out myself. And I think that held me back in a lot of ways. And I think having that humility and confidence at the same time, like I don't know, I have the confidence to get through it if someone's willing to work with me. So the two of you have been quite successful in your careers. You moved into founding this company with others. Clearly you've had the ambition and the confidence to learn a lot, but you're also exemplifying this sense of there's a lot that we don't know even today. You keep learning and challenging yourselves with this new company. So over the last almost year, what has been the most unexpected?
I would say the amount of deals that we signed up when we first started was not that I didn't think we were going to be successful. Otherwise, obviously, we wouldn't have done this. But the support from our existing clients that we've worked with for the years was really like, I don't know, it brings a tear to your eye. I mean, it was just great how like they felt so much trust in us that they were okay to switch where they were doing their lending and come to us almost from day one. And I thought it would take a little bit more time for them to see, okay, what's our success rate look like? What's happening before they were willing to make a change. But we were blessed that a lot of our clients, there was no hesitation. They knew we could get stuff done and they weren't worried about the change in the setup. So,
yeah. So a positive unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And go ahead, Tina.
No, I don't have a negative unexpected. I was like, yeah, I think what's unexpected is how much fun I think it's been, even though finance, a lot of people like isn't fun, but if you do it with the right people, it's not, it's happy to come to work. It's great. And we always have challenges, sure. But, it's what unexpected is, I think, just the four partners and just working, like everyone's taking on what they need to take on to be successful. Like there's no one saying like, oh, I never want to do that. So that's been good.
I think the other thing that's interesting too is that the support that we've gotten from our peers in the industry, people that we've worked with maybe at previous companies or like we actually never worked with, but we sat on advisory councils with or other committees with over the years have been extremely supportive. Like, they're all like, so, can we get a job? Like, can we come work with you? How did you do this? How's it structured? Like they have tons of questions and we're really, really supportive of the concept. So it's been great.
One of the things I take away from this and that I want to emphasize to any of the younger audience listening to it is you build your reputation every day. So these people who you've sat on advisory councils with, who were former clients, you built their trust. You've built a reputation, right? I mean, so you've proven your skills, your abilities, your competence. And so everybody who's interacted with you've conveyed that and built that reputation.
Yeah, I think that's become clear to us. And maybe before when we weren't so sure, it's become much more obvious at this point that that's the place we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, of course, as you two know, I work not directly, but definitely have an impact in some way on all these young adults who go on a voyage. And when I do have a chance to talk to them, and I have a couple young ones in my house, who are just starting out their lives, I think how do you emphasize this importance of reputation? How do they show up in that first job?
Yeah. I think it literally starts from the first impression when you're interviewing. I think that there was definitely, some stuff lost during the COVID era of just, everything was over camera or you didn't have to be on screen or anything. And I think that, how you appear and how genuine you seem when you're in a conversation with someone, it matters. And knowing what you're talking about when you come to a meeting is really important. And then just knowing that you never want to burn any bridges. We've discovered it. I think what Kristen has said here too is like our industry is incredibly small, and it's not just our industry. Every industry is really small, depending on what niche you go into. So you never want to burn the bridge. You might have differences with someone, but you have to figure out a way to work with somebody. It doesn't matter. And if you can't figure out how to work with people in a professional setting, that's going to haunt you forever. So, in terms of reputation, don't burn the bridges, figure it out, like eat some humble pie now and then if you have to, and just see the bigger picture.
Love it. Yeah. One of the courses in business schools has been longstanding as business ethics. And of course, they talk about the importance of integrity and being honest. If you're ever in those classes, you can see students' eyes roll back and they're like, really? You don't have to talk to me about this. And yet it could be the most valuable thing in any career, in any industry, is your integrity, that you show up, you do the work, you do it well, you go the extra mile when you need to. And clearly this is proven out for the two of you and your other co-founders.
Yeah. We all sit and talk about how, in our 20s, we had no lives because all we did was hang out at work and like work till 9 p.m. at night. And, but it paid off because we learned a ton and we developed great relationships. And, at that time, everybody was doing that. I mean, this was, in the early 2000s, right? So everyone it was just kind of the expectation. It was, again, the whole pre-COVID era of, work-life balance didn't really exist as much. And so you didn't really have all the people you worked with became your friends. I mean, Kristen and I were in each other's weddings, so like we worked together a lot when we first started. And, it was enjoyable because we liked what we did. And we just wanted to be great at what we did, and we wanted to learn everything.
Yeah.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester C, a study abroad program for college students and adults on career breaks, sabbaticals, or retired, interested in learning and exploring the world together. Learn more about the Lifelong Learner program at www.semesterc.org. So given that you have yourselves as co-founders, but also a team that is running this relatively new startup, I found this quote from a book that's almost 20 years old. It's still a book that sits on my shelf because Carol Dweck really was, in most people's minds, the one who came up with this idea of a growth mindset. And of course, now we all talk about what a growth mindset is and the importance of a growth mindset. But she has this quote in here, and I'd like to read it to you and have both of you respond to it. Again, it's Mindset by Carol Dweck for anybody who's interested, anybody who actually reads books these days. The quote goes like this: when you read about an athlete or team that wins over and over and over, remind yourself, more than ability, they have character.
Yeah, it's so important. And it goes back to what we were just talking about with the reputation, right? Your character. And I think in those situations, those are people that have figured out how to work together as a team and adapt, because you can't keep winning doing the exact same thing. Because that's the one thing we've learned is that, especially in our business, like no deal is the same. And I'm sure it applies across the industries. So you have to be able to adapt and change. And then, management styles change, goals of the company change. To keep winning, you have to keep figuring out where you're supposed to be headed, right? And do that together as a team. So
Yep. I think perseverance, resilience, always wanting to learn. Those are like the key factors that I think of when you're talking about character and winning. If you're not challenging yourself all the time to get better and to improve, you're not going to keep winning because everybody else is working just as hard as you are to get better. And so if you take it for granted that, hey, I've been winning in the past, I'm going to keep winning, I think that stuff's going to, go by the sidelines. And I think every time you see a team that they're kind of like the underdog and you see them like win, it's because they've persevered and like dug deep, put in the effort, figured it out how to come together and do it. So.
And come together, right? They really synced as a team. There's some type of magic solution that everybody's sort of consumed to make that chemistry, that connectivity. So can we explore one more thing with what you've said, and that is a team that is adaptable and resilient. A team that's adaptable and resilient. It's one thing to talk about our own self-care and our own, reflection and how we grow and how we care for ourselves, but it's another to talk about a team. And I haven't really explored that in a previous podcast. How do you have a adaptable and resilient team?
I mean, I think it definitely starts from leadership, right? And making sure that everybody's clear on where you're headed and getting everybody's buy-in. But it also takes to like listening to everybody on the team as well. I think hearing what their ideas, hearing what their concerns are, and then kind of all agreeing this is where we're headed. But
I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think everyone has to have some sort of a common vision. Like, what's the end goal?
Yeah.
Where do we want to be? And just have a strategy around it and realize that I think you never sell it like it's going to be easy. It's I think being successful, having your own company, doing anything like that, I think is always going to be challenging. You're going to have to put in the effort, but if you know where you want to go, right? And we all have the same vision, then I think it makes it a little bit easier to realize, hey, it's going to be bumpy and you're going to have to adapt and be resilient, but we know it's worth the end goal.
Yeah. Being open to the changes as they come along, keeping them ignored.
Long-term vision, and then the listening piece as well.
Yeah.
Right. That to me is perhaps the most important factor in adaptability as a team. I have a senior leadership team, and we just met today, and we meet every Wednesday morning for an hour, a little hour and a half. And obviously, because it's my team, I do talk, but I really try to create that environment where I am listening more than I'm talking, because they are listening to their team members. And the knowledge exists in the people doing the work.
Kristen is a good listener. I will say that she's probably the best listener on our team. So it's really good.
Thanks, Tina.
She always has her ear to the ground. She knows everything because everyone calls Kristen for everything. It's amazing. So yes, I think it's very appropriate that she said that. And I do find validity in that because, a lot of times she'll come to the table knowing things about what other people on our team or the team that we work with, like external partners, what they're thinking and going through, because, she takes time to listen. So definitely.
And at the same time, Tina, reflecting on that because you were listening to her. So I got to give you props for your listening skills as well.
Yeah.
So we're almost at time. And because I have two guests, I'm starting this just a little bit early. And because I like to make sure they have plenty of time to really share that one piece of advice. It's not a simple thing and always meaningful at the end. So I'd like to start with you, Tina, if you don't mind. And in this case, you could speak to the 20-year-old, the 25-year-old, or the 45-year-old, 50-year-old. You don't have to talk to someone as old as me, but you can.
Yeah.
But what's that one piece of advice you would give someone?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're speaking to someone who's thinking of starting their own business. Maybe you're thinking of someone thinking about going into finance. Maybe you're talking to a young woman who is thinking about going into finance. What would be that piece of advice you would give?
So I think a piece of advice, I used to manage more people back, like in my former roles. And I think whenever people were kind of wavering on like what they wanted to do, like in their career, I would always tell people to just find a place where you have at least one person in your corner. So like if you're at a current company, just kind of like Kristen's point earlier, like have a mentor, have an ally in your corner. Like you need someone who's there rooting you on. And if you're going to make a move to another company, like don't make it over like a small change in salary. Make it because you believe in the culture over there and you have somebody maybe in your corner. Like you have to have people around you that you can believe in and that ultimately believe in you because of, what you've put out there as your work product. And I think that will make for a much happier work life. And work life is it's where we spend most of our days. So, if you can find that, then I think you'll ultimately find greater happiness overall and more opportunities. And you'll be willing to take risks that you wouldn't otherwise take because you have people around you that, support you and that you support, you do anything for. So that would be my advice.
That's awesome. Awesome. Love it, Tina.
I'm the only one in the group, as you can tell.
Nah. I like how you went there, and I thought you weren't going to go all the way to what mine was, which mine was like, make sure that you're happy in your job. Life is too short to come to a job every day that you don't enjoy. You're not going to love your job every day. Like that's silly. But, I love my kids, but I don't always love my kids. Not every day.
I love you, but I don't like you right now.
Yes, right now I do not like you. So, you're not going to love your job every day, but like you need to enjoy what you're doing. Life is honestly too short to just go and do the grind every day. So, but to Tina's point, you definitely want to, if you're going to make a move, make sure it's a good move, but don't be afraid to make a move though. I think that people very easily get stuck, and they, maybe they're really happy, but if they're not, then let's just try and push yourself out of your comfort zone. Have the courage to look yourself in the face and decide, like, is this really what I want to do? Like, do I really want to be here? Or is there something that I could do where I probably would be happier and more productive?
Yeah.
All right. So in summary, have someone in your corner, like have a connection, someone who believes in you and who you believe in, that you respect, they respect you, and make sure you're doing work that you enjoy with people that you like find that place. And if you're not there, push yourself to make a change.
Very good summary, Scott. That was good. Good.
That's why we've done that all the way through our careers. See, he's listening. That's for sure. But that's what, Tina and Andrew and Greg and I have been together since 2003-ish. And, and they've been in different companies because the situation changed and we were no longer happy there. But luckily we were all able to move together. So.
Over 2 decades, same individuals who believe in each other, who see each other's strengths. They see each other as humans, even their shadow sides. After a while, oh, this person's stressed out, whatever it is. Yeah, that's brilliant. I love it. I don't want to continue this because those pieces of advice got to sit with people as we close this up. Have people in your corner and find a place where you enjoy being, doing the work with the people you like. That's great stuff. Hey, thank you both for joining. I love having 2 guests at a time, particularly 2 who, they get along with each other pretty well.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having us. It was great to be here.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully I'll have lunch with you all again sometime soon.
Yeah, come visit for sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program where students visit 10 countries on 3 continents, all while taking 3 to 4 college classes through Colorado State University. See course offerings and upcoming voyage itineraries at www.semesteratsea.org. Thank you for joining this week's episode of the As Unexpected podcast. The viewpoints and opinions of featured guests do not necessarily represent those of the Institute for Shipboard Education or Semester at Sea. Hit the like button, share it with your colleagues, family, and friends, and remember, be curious, be compassionate, be courageous. That's what it takes to lead as unexpected.